But Forgotten, an empirical study of privacy and sharing attitude by Kovila Coopamootoo, and Thomas Gross and Kovila will be giving the talk.
Thank you. Hi. Good morning. I'm Kovila Coopamootoo from Newcastle University. I'm a research fellow over there. This is joint work with my colleague Thomas Gross. In our quest to understanding why privacy is all but forgotten, we chose to start with an empirical investigation of privacy versus sharing attitude. In the next few slides, I explain how we actually got there. So as definition, an attitude is an evaluation of entity, an issue, or an object, that anything somebody holds in mind, actually, or an evaluation of another person. It's an evaluation with regards to favor or disfavor, so positive or negative attitude. A sharing attitude in our paper and this discussion is an evaluation towards willful, deliberate sharing of something personal to another. Here we use the definition of self-disclosure from Gerard. A privacy attitude is an evaluation towards protection, collection, control of information about the person himself. So we also know in literature, in social psychology literature, that attitudes are... Sorry. Yeah. So we also know from psychology, that social psychology, that attitudes are multidimensional construct consisting of a cognitive part, which means the information associated with the evaluation itself, an emotive part, so how we feel when we are evaluating the object or the entity, and a behavior part. We have seen a lot of debates to the construct of whether attitude actually cause behavior since 1934 from Lapierre's study, Lapierre's experiment. So in the privacy context, in the privacy context, we are aware of a phenomenon called the privacy paradox, or otherwise called the privacy dichotomy. So what that means is that privacy attitudes are often seen not to match privacy behavior. What we find there is that we are using a number of privacy-related concepts when we refer to attitudes, such that the space is really pretty complex. In terms of attitude, we find the use of concern about data use, willingness to disclose, adaptation of Western privacy segmentation index. We find the use of general privacy attitude with respect to what others know about us. In terms of behavior, we see actual behavior observation in terms of disclosure to an online bot, self-report of sharing behavior, in terms of signing up to a loyalty card, or reported use of social networks such as Facebook. So what all this means is that the space is pretty complex, and we try to conceptualize by trying to differentiate between privacy and sharing, attitude and behavior, and we were a bit uncertain of what's going on there, actually, whether that was what was being observed. So then we ask ourselves, what if actually privacy and sharing were competing attitudes? We know from literature that human beings have a need to be both open and close in relationship with others. And we know that in that sense, privacy and sharing exhibit a dialectical tension. So we struggle in relationship to share information and at the same time keep a sense of privacy for ourselves. The other question we asked ourselves was, what if privacy and sharing attitude involve different emotions? So there are different expressed emotion. And in the relationship between attitude and emotion that I showed earlier, we find that emotions are governed by two different motivational systems. By the defensive motivation system, where we tend to close down and protect ourselves, versus the appetitive one, where we open up, we share, etc. So that led us to our main research question, which was, how does privacy attitude differ from sharing attitude? Looking back at the conceptualization diagram, this is the red part is what we aim to investigate here. So in a way, we were asking privacy versus sharing attitude, what's going on here in terms of cognition and affect? Who are these characters that are involved? Are they different, actually? So how did we answer our research question? We had 3 phases. In phase 1, we had a pretest, where we generated a code book and refined that. In phase 2, we used the pretest on the main data set, and we employed content analysis. In phase 3, we had some qualitative reports in the paper, and we conducted a few statistical analyses. So phase 1, it was a sample of 18. We asked the question, what does privacy and sharing online mean to you? We had 3 coders doing conventional line-by-line coding. They categorized concepts in a list of categories. In the initial codebook, we had 43 concepts categorized into 7 categories. This was refined with 2 other coders who were trained on the codebook in 2 iterations. Finally, we ended up with a codebook that had 52 categories and 6, sorry, not 52 categories, 52 codes and 6 categories. The categories were, we ensured that they were exhaustive, independent, and mutually exclusive. So what does a codebook actually contain? For us, it had 6 categories shown here. And each of the categories had a set of codes with them. So for example, if the coder noticed that the participant was expressing anger, irritation, or annoyance, he would code that section of test as emo01. If they found that the participant was expressing that others was gaining access, hacking, or tracking into their system, he would code that as ACO01, etc. In the second phase, we had our main experiment, which was a between-subject experiment. Sample size 60, coming from Amazon Mechanical Turk. We had mean age around 38, 22 female. We asked the open question again, what does privacy versus sharing online mean to you? Responses were in free-form text, mean unit length around 264 words. So the 2 trained coders were on agreement at 88.2% of the time. This is the general agreement. And Co-and-Kappa intercoder reliability, inter-rater reliability of 0.67, which points to substantial agreement. In the paper, we have agreements and Co-and-Kappa for each of the categories as well. So phase 3, we asked 3 kinds of questions. First, how do PA and SA differ? How do PA and SA differ in causing emotions, those different emotions? How well can we discriminate between PA versus SA? So, first phase of the analysis, we run an independent samples t-test on frequency of each of the 52 codes in the main code book and the 36 codes that were generated from the other codes. So here we show codes that had a large effect size, differentiating between those that were more present in the privacy condition versus those that were more present in the sharing condition. So in the category of how participants view others, we find that business and company and adversaries were more present in the privacy condition versus close connection, acquaintances, and friends in the sharing condition. In terms of emotion, we find that participants express more fear versus happiness. In terms of others' activities, we find that they referred more to others gaining access, hacking or tracking, or posing other kinds of threats. We didn't find any codes that were significantly present in the sharing condition. For data, no code significantly present in the privacy condition versus more of content being created and uploaded in general, and specific content such as videos, messages, pictures, etc. in the sharing condition. So next bit, how does the induced privacy versus sharing attitude cause a difference in likelihood of fear and happiness? We had 2 logistic regression here. We find that PA versus SA predict the occurrence of fear with statistical significance. In SA, participants were 1/10 as likely to express fear. PA versus SA predict an occurrence of happiness with significance. In SA, participants were 8 times more likely to express happiness. So third phase of the analysis, we asked to what extent do the emotions help us discriminate between privacy and sharing attitude themselves. So what this regression surface is showing is the likelihood to be in PA blue versus sharing depending on emotions. So an increase in fear here means that the person is more likely to be in privacy attitude. An increase in happiness means they are more likely to be in sharing attitude. So we evaluated our model as well. We look at area under curve for receiver operating characteristic curve, where the AUC is measuring discrimination, the ability of the model to correctly classify P versus SA. We find for coded emotion that we had a near good discrimination. For emotional tone, we actually extracted emotional tone from the data set using IBM Code Analyzer, and we found excellent discrimination here. On a separate data set that we cross-validated, again, excellent discrimination. So as research contributions, we showed that P and SA differ across a number of codes. They cause different emotions. The emotions can discriminate between the attitude themselves. We find that our classifiers act as useful tools for future research, and also that our content analysis approach offers a reproducible methodology. So to summarize, we found ambivalent privacy and sharing attitude. So in a way, we sort of have a privacy character and a sharing character. The privacy character thinks about companies keeping record, having other kinds of adversarial action on him, and he's expressing fear. The sharing character feels of his close connections and what he's actually sharing personally with them, and he's very much in a happy mood. So this is my last slide. What does this mean? Is that when Joy is in a sharing attitude, she's happy, and she is less likely to think of adversaries or harms to her privacy. So that is why privacy is all but forgotten from our paper. Thank you very much.